And I want everyone in America right now to look at me. Look at me smoking indoors. I didn't ask anybody, I just did it. What are they gonna do? Kick me out before I get the prize? No, nigga, this is called leverage.
Comedy. From the plays of ancient Greece to the jesters of medieval court, the desire for funnies appears timeless. People today are more than willing to use their hard-earned money to get some well-earned funny, as according to world metrics, comedy accounts for more than 58% of all streaming content. The desire to laugh seems to be shared by everyone, and as such, the ability to make others laugh is coveted. Although trying too hard to be funny gets tired fast, who wouldn't want to be able to crack a few more jokes in the day-to-day life? In order to tap into our true hilarious potential, though, we first need to ask, what actually makes something funny? Firstly, it's important to distinguish between humor and laughter. As described by University of Manitoba psychiatrists Jeffrey P. Reese and Joseph Polimeni, humor and laughter are not synonymous. Humor is the underlying cognitive process that frequently, but not necessarily, leads to laughter. Laughter is a seizure-like activity that can be elicited by experiencing a humorous cognitive stimulus, but also other stimuli, such as tickling. Thus, one can laugh without a humorous stimulus, and similarly, one can experience humor without laughter. Basically, the concept of funny is largely found in humor. That is, the context, content, and etc. elements that cause something to be interpreted as funny. Although laughter is evidence of something funny, this analysis of comedic elements will mainly focus on the humor that inspires it.
Shit was trash. You can't handle me. Hold up. Ain't you Nathaniel B? What is that? Get the fuck out of the floor!
Context is one of the most crucial elements of comedy. Simply, a person must be aware of certain information in order to understand a joke at all. In an honors thesis published by the University of Maine, Abigail Jones writes, "For comedy to have a critical edge, it must trade on double meanings. Hence, the key to understanding the social criticism behind comedy must be context." However, comedy does not always have to address social criticism. Jokes may exist separately from such topics, so it makes sense to expand the necessity of context to understanding jokes in general. Let's look at the previous clip. In a rap battle, TikToker PrinceMatch3 finishes his verse with the line,
Hold up. Ain't you Nathaniel B?
to the confusion and utter social rejection of the crowd around him. A few years later, he would address the clip in a TikTok, explaining that he intended to degrade his opponent by calling him Nathaniel, the name of said opponent's little brother, and throwing in the last initial B to ensure a rhyme scheme. Though not intended, his lyrics created a double entendre that went unnoticed, as he both puts down the recipient by referring to him as his younger and thus inferior brother, but also by a name that isn't at the top of any list, as Nathaniel B would always come second to Nathaniel A. This wordplay has somewhat untapped potential, and should the context of his diss have been understood by those around him, there may have been a more positive reaction to his line. One of the reasons why context is such a large aspect of comedy is because it encapsulates all kinds of references. For example, what did Yoda say when he saw himself on the TV? HDMI. This joke utilizes a double entendre as necessitated by Jones, and more importantly, it requires the context of knowing who Yoda is and how he talks in order to understand it. If you didn't know that Yoda speaks by inverting the chronology of his words, you wouldn't be able to make the connection that he's saying, I am HD. And of course, when put into Yoda speak, the double meaning of the joke is achieved, as HDMI is a TV-related cable. Overall, context is simply an unforgettable element when attempting to be funny. But you know what else is unforgettable? It's often said that humor is tragedy plus time, but this is only half the story. In a paper discussing the possibilities of humor within tragedies, Professors A. Peter McGraw, Caleb Warren, Lawrence Williams, and Bridget Leonard displayed 5 studies which convey that tragedies, which feature severe violations, are more humorous when temporally, socially, hypothetically, or spatially distant, but that mishaps, which feature mild violations, are more humorous when psychologically close. In other words, severe events are harder to find as benign when in close proximity, but it becomes easier to find levity in them once much time has passed. As smallest groups are funniest in recent memory, losing their effect as time passes. Here's a story I posted on Instagram a few days ago. In it, I show my record of having multiple parking tickets with a humorous comment that I'm funding the city. Now obviously, having a bunch of parking tickets is not good, but with the recent proximity to this little flub, it was able to be seen as humorous by some of my friends. Next, let's look at this SNL sketch.
Well, I'm glad you survived, so I can meet you.
Me too. So, OJ, is that a nickname?
No, actually, it's my first and middle names, Orenthal James, but, you know, I did have a nickname for a little while, Juice, as in the juice is loose.
Loose from what?
Just a juice container, I guess, you know. It's silly.
Okay, for the lady we have the halibut, and
Thank you.
for the gentleman we have the steak,
Oh
the
my
lamb
God.
chops, and the burgers and fries.
Ooh, I can't believe you ordered all that.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm starving. I feel like I haven't eaten a decent meal in years.
My man.
Oh, you know what it is. Yeah. You know what it is.
Undoubtedly, the show would not have been greenlit in the prime era of OJ. The media was polarized, and the people enraged at the idea that he was out free after allegedly killing 2 people. So it's unlikely that this joke in the 90s would have received the same response as it did in 2018. Evidently though, time has allowed the OJ situation to evolve into something people are capable of finding funny. I mean, look how much comedians note this guy. Now that the juice has expired though, I'm sure comics will calm down their OJ jokes and everyone will slowly stop asking if he did it. The only thing left to wonder is if the coffin fit. Did that last joke surprise you? If it did, I'm guessing you found it funny, though a little bit outrageous. Stanford's Encyclopedia of Philosophy addresses the theory of incongruity as it pertains to humor. In short, when we hear the lead up to something humorous, our minds predict a certain outcome. However, when the punchline is delivered, our own disappointed expectations result in finding it funny. A similar theory is that of benign violation, as expressed by Professors Peter McGraw and Caleb Warren. They contend that humor evolves from the violation of some concrete social norm, such as not disturbing the peace of a dead man. Between the two theories, I believe that both are necessary to completely encapsulate humor. From my experience, and this may be due to modern styles of comedy through social media, on the spectrum of total incongruity to total congruity, items on either end of the spectrum tend to be funny. Total congruity, that is, the extreme repetition of something, is itself a violation of the social norm that there must be content variety. A great example of this is Brent Peterson, who would add himself on to the end of viral videos in 2022 and say,
"Vote for me President of the United States. I am Brent Peterson."
This was the only form of content he had, and by pure repetition, he gained an audience who admired him and found him funny. Another example is the current popularity of so-called brain rot, which is the repeated use of phrases like yap, risen edge. This is found hilarious by social media audiences, as it violates subtle social linguistic norms through pure repetition. On the other end of the spectrum is incongruity, the art of the unexpected, and someone who is truly a master of this is Dave Chappelle.
Deal with jails. Don't deal with jails, and I don't deal with police. My house got robbed in New York. I didn't even call the police. I wanted to, but I couldn't. My crib is too nice. It's not that it's too nice, but it's too nice for me. You know how the police are in New York. Soon as I open the door, they'll be like, "Oh, he's still here. Open and shut case, Johnson." Apparently, this black guy broke in and hung up pictures of his family everywhere.
After setting up a scenario, Chappelle is able to defy the expectations of the audience by presenting an extreme outcome that nobody expected, embodying the theory of incongruity. The idea that the audience is led to believe is that the police will simply do a bad job of helping him, but when they instead accuse him of burglary in his own house, all we can do is laugh at the absurdity of the scene he presents. Some may not respect repetition as real humor, but you may be surprised. You might be fooled by things that on their own aren't really funny. Ever heard that laughter is contagious? It actually might be. Neuroscientists at the University College of London have presented the idea that people mirror others socially. So when someone else starts laughing, you're more likely to mimic their emotions and behavior and start laughing as well. I know I said I wasn't going to focus on laughter, but hear me out here. You'd be surprised how many of your favorite shows aren't as funny without an audience to laugh along with. Some shows like The Office don't rely on a laugh track, but without one, other shows like Sam and Cat don't get off on the same foot. Here's a comparison of scenes from the hit TV show Friends, both with and without a laugh track.
Okay, ladies, that ends today's class. And let's remember, let's be safe out there.
It's a great class.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I was watching. Hey, a couple of questions though. You know about that last move where that woman tripped you and then pinned you to the floor? What would you do next?
Well, then she'd take her keys and try to jam them in you.
No. What would you do next?
Oh, me, the attacker?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, ladies, That ends today's class. And let's remember, let's be safe out there.
Great class.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I was watching. Hey, a couple of questions though. You know about that last move where that woman tripped you and then pinned you to the floor? What would you do next?
Well, then she'd take her keys and try to jam them in you.
No. What would you do next?
Who, me, the attacker?
Yes, that's right.
Without the laugh track, jokes from Friends are pretty stale. It's easy to see why they were so popular in sitcoms, as they lighten the mood and inspire audiences to see things as funny when mirroring the emotions they are hearing. Now, I absolutely did not cover every aspect of comedy. Things like satire and dark humor tend to be too nuanced to cover in a short form video like this. However, what I've covered constitutes the basic elements of comedy. So we can ask, what makes something funny? To find out, I devised a survey in which I presented 11 people with 5 different videos, each of which focused on a certain element of comedy, and asked them to rate each video out of 10. In the end, people found the video focusing on incongruity to be the funniest, with an average score of 7.2 out of 10. Followed closely by the reference-oriented video at 6.5, and the video focusing on tragedy at 6.4. So basically, being unexpected is how to be funny, right? Well, no. There was so much variation in my samples that no difference in any of the elements can be proved. Also, these results are not concrete since there were many flaws with my study. For one, I only presented one example of each type of joke, mainly out of concern for the time of the participants. And jokes almost always incorporate more than one aspect of humor. Nearly everyone who studies humor admits that it is extremely difficult to quantify. But expansions can be made to this kind of study, in which we ask what combinations of comedic elements will maximize the amount of funny in a joke. We should also ask if some elements don't go well together, and result in a joke being less funny. But is this arduous study of comedy even worth it? As E.B. White puts it, explaining a joke is like dissecting a frog. You understand it better, but the frog dies in the process. Perhaps some things are best not taken apart scientifically, but rather simply enjoyed.